I've talked a little bit about my knives in some of my other videos as I'm carving or in my tip videos, but figured I'd put together a kind of comprehensive video here talking about my knives and tools that I use for chip carving. So the first one is this, which I have a tip video specifically for. This is the knife that I use for old world style carving, and the brand is Stry. It's kind of hard to see, but I bought it from Etsy a number of years ago. I think they're still available, but the price has gone up. But again, I don't use this all that often, pretty much just for old world style chips. And so this is a knife box where I store my knives that I'm using on a regular basis. It just sits over here on my workbench. And the first one here is all my chip carving knives are from My Chip Carving, and this is what he calls the standard cutting knife. And you can see it's got kind of a chunky blade here. I don't use this one all that often, really. It's pretty good for long straight lines if you're carving just a line, like for a border. It could be good for three-corner chips as well. But it's not real great for curving because there's so much metal. It doesn't really like to curve. It'll kind of pry the wood a little bit. So I end up not using this knife all that much. The second one is, I think this is the Ruby knife, and it is the modified knife from My Chip Carving. And kind of comparing the blades, you can see the length from the spine of the blade to the edge is a lot narrower on this, and the point is a lot finer, a lot tighter of an angle there. So this blade is a good overall blade for me, and because I do a lot of letter work, a lot of curving, a lot of just not a lot of repetitive three-point chips and straight lines. So this is one of probably my main go-to knife for a little bit larger chips that I do. And then the third one is, I think it's the Deluxe Knife, again from My Chip Carving, and it's the same blade shape as the Ruby knife, but if you can see, the primary bevel on the Ruby knife is about halfway down the blade, whereas the primary bevel on the Deluxe knife is almost the entire blade, and it's a concave cut. So this blade is a lot thinner, which means the edge of the blade ends up being a lot finer. And it allows me to do a lot more detail work for some of the small, fine text that I carve, or just really little cuts that some of my designs have. And the downside is because it's so thin, it actually has some flex to it. It's probably hard to see in the camera, and it's really not that much, but when doing chip carving, I can definitely feel the flex a lot, especially if I'm trying to do a bigger chip and get a straight line. The flex of this blade just really isn't a very good fit. So that's why for kind of normal to larger size chips, I tend to use the Ruby knife, which has a beefier blade thickness, so I don't get that bending. But if I want detail work, I use this. So these are modified knives are the two that I use the most. And like I said, I don't use the standard cutting knife all that much, but it is useful to have. So for beginners, if you just want to get one knife, I personally would probably recommend one that looks more like this, whether it's from My Chip Carving or Wayne Barton or Flex Cut, whatever the brand is that you buy. I get a lot more mileage out of these, and I think if you can learn to carve with this, then it'll be a good overall knife. But a lot of beginner carvers might find better success with one like this, where the blade actually kind of guides the knife and helps it stay on line as you're developing the hand and blade control in the wood. So if you have a chance to try some different ones, then that's probably a good idea. But like I said, this form with kind of the narrower knife, if you only want to buy one, is probably the one that I would recommend.